So Ohio fully legalized the good herb a short while back. The voters approved rec, but more importantly, home grows, and the lawmakers passed the laws to make that all happen. But shortly after that, those very same lawmakers tried to backtrack on what the voters approved by lowering the THC limits, capping extracts at 70%, cutting home grows from 12 to 6 plants, all while doubling taxes from 10 to 20%. Well, now it turns out that was not such a bright idea, as those proposals stalled, but they're not completely dead yet.
Well, some state house Republicans are trying to change the recreational laws Ohio voters passed back in 2023, and this, of course, won't make some smokers happy. Dan DeRose from the 19 Data journalism team here now with these proposed changes. This is far from happening. We got a long way to go to get to this.
Right. New legislation, Senate Bill 56 is the name of it, pitched by State Senator Republican Stephen Huffman. Hang on if you're a big proponent of recreational weed, that just hang on. It was just introduced, but you're probably not going to be happy. First of all, the home grow. Now, when Ohio's voted for it in November of 2023, the rule was you could have 12 plants at home. Well, Huffman believes that's too much. Nobody could smoke 12 plants in a year, so he wants to slash that down to 6 plants. Next up, state tax. Ohio voters said 10%. Nope, he's going to bump it up to 15%. Another big change here, that 10% was divided up into 5 different pots, a bunch of different areas. Nope, he wants all 15% to go straight to the state budget so that they can decide what to do with it. Taxes go into the state's general fund. Next up, probably not such a big deal here, it says that any weed in a vehicle, whether it's medical or recreational, has to be in the trunk. It is currently that it has to be sealed, has to have the label on it, can't be open. No, he thinks that too many people are abusing this. They're smoking in their car, so he wants all weed in the trunk. Nothing there about what you do if you don't have a trunk. Next up, oils and vapes, the THC concentrate, again, voted by Ohio voters, 90%. They want to kick that down to 70%. When it comes to the THC and actual weed that you smoke in the plant, they're leaving that alone at 35%. All just pitched. Nowhere near changing. This is going to be a long process. We're in a lame duck session. We'll see if it ever even gets voted on. Brian?
Now, you guys would recall when we reported on those proposed changes a couple months back, and a lot of people over in Ohio were not happy about those proposed changes. In particular, the taxes, cutting home grows, the capping of those THC limits, everything seemed to go against what those voters actually voted on. But just like you guys would have heard in that clip, a lot of those laws actually did not come into force because they were still being debated, and also because a lot of those Ohioans actually pushed back on those laws and let the lawmakers know that those are not satisfactory. We're not happy with it. Now, despite the people speaking out and making their voices heard, Governor DeWine down there in Ohio actually urged the lawmakers to make some of these changes and really tried to push those changes through. Check it out.
Home grow is back in the bill, but it's going to be limited to only 6 plants per home, not the original 12 that was in issue 2. Also included a process for immediate expungement of possession convictions upon request, and there will be a public smoking ban as well. Cannot just stand on a corner and do this. Governor Mike DeWine speaking at a news conference a few moments ago.
And the proponents of issue 2 specifically stated that they wanted recreational marijuana regulated as alcohol is regulated in the state of Ohio. We have an obligation to implement a safe, legal market in Ohio for those people who want to use recreational marijuana. But we also have an obligation to protect the rights of those who don't want to be exposed to it.
So again, just wants to regulate it like alcohol. The Senate has not voted on the bill with the changes just yet, but they're expected to do that later tonight. Not clear when the House would then follow. Once it does, then onto the governor's desk it goes, and we will be all over that story for you tonight.
So with lawmakers pushing for changes to the recreational program that the voters actually approved, you guys can see how this could become a tricky topic. Now, despite the fact that certain lawmakers were pushing for revisions to Ohio's recreational program, it cannot happen at the snap of a fingers. In fact, it has to go through the various houses, the Senate, and finally lands on the governor's desk, and he can either sign it into law or veto it. Now, it seems that it didn't even make it to the governor's desk because that bill to make changes to those laws have stalled once again. Have a look.
5:30 starts now.
I don't know that
something would not be possible. That doesn't jive with the conversations I've had with the Speaker.
Well, Ohio lawmakers are mulling several changes to the state's recreational marijuana laws. We thank you for staying with us. For NBC4 at 5:30, I'm Jennifer Bullock.
I'm Anna Hoffman. That bill has stalled again. NBC4 State House reporter Natalie Fahmy joins us live with why. Natalie, what's going on?
Anna, Jen, leaders are citing more than a dozen changes between the House and Senate and what they want to get done, but those leaders are taking a different tone about all of it.
I think the conversations have gone pretty well on it.
We'd like to try to get those resolved by next week. I'm not very optimistic about it, though.
Ohio Senate President Rob McCauley and Ohio House Speaker Matt Huffman both want to pass a bill to change recreational marijuana laws, which voters approved back in 2023. But Huffman says a new list of 16 issues from the Senate stalled the bill's passage this week.
I just told my caucus, we're not going to just say okay because we're so anxious to pass the marijuana bill, which I'd like to get it done, but we're not going to give up House priorities to do that.
The bill aims to do things like decrease the legal THC level by 20% and only allow smoking on your private property. McCauley says he thinks it can still get done.
I think maybe there was a misunderstanding as to where we might have been on the bill as both chambers.
The bill also looks to pull funding from local governments that have dispensaries. Right now, host communities receive 36% of the tax revenue. Republican leaders want to reallocate that, sending much of it back to the state's general revenue fund. Ohio House Minority Leader Allison Russo says the whole bill is a step too far.
I have full faith that voters knew what they were voting on.
Lawmakers also want to regulate Delta 8 in this bill. It's a low-level THC that gives someone a similar high to marijuana.
So it's pretty clear what's happening here, guys. The voters approved one thing and the lawmakers are now trying to change it. But that being said, there are certain lawmakers who agree with what the voters have approved and are not trying to change the laws. So it seems to me that there's a little bit of infighting between these actual lawmakers, especially when it comes to the regulations surrounding the good herb. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, because I do want to show you guys how Ohio's actually pulled in tons of money from the good herb, and also pre-rolls are finally hitting shelves. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, if you guys are getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or just buy us a cup of coffee. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics, use the code LEGAL, it works on the bundle and the beans. And we just dropped a new exclusive line, so definitely check that out before it's all gone.
They have been trying to change Ohio's recreational marijuana law since voters passed it back in November of 2023.
But just hours before the State House was supposed to vote on a compromise, state senators pulled the bill.
So News 5's Morgan Trout spoke with both sides about what happened, what are the sticking points, and what's next.
Ohio voters spoke loud and clear.
Well, I voted for it.
Like Republican State Rep Jamie Callender, who has been smoking marijuana for decades. He was a large supporter of Issue 2 in 2023, the legalization of recreational cannabis. But since then, other Republican leaders have been trying to change the law. For the past several months, the chambers have been trying to compromise on their separate bills. The Senate's proposal decreases THC content, reduces home growing from 12 plants to 6, imposes more criminal penalties, and takes away tax money from local municipalities that have dispensaries. The House's latest version had none of those.
The Senate had proposed taking that tax away. We finally had that negotiated so it would stay in.
Recently, an agreement was reached on following most of the House version, which mainly focused on preventing children from accessing the drug. The bill was set to hit the House floor Wednesday, but in a turn of events, Republican infighting is preventing the bill from being passed.
Apparently, the Senate changed their mind.
In a shock to House Speaker Matt Huffman, the Senate pulled out of the compromise.
To my surprise, and there were a whole new set of issues, additional issues, which were raised Monday night.
A Senate ultimatum of 16 changes.
They wanted to make a mandatory jail sentence for passing a joint between friends.
What changed in the past 72 hours to pull the Senate out of the marijuana deal?
Well, I wouldn't say anything has changed. I think the conversations have gone pretty well Maybe there was a misunderstanding as to where we might have been on the bill as both chambers.
Senate President Rob McCauley says that he wants to follow his version of the legislation.
I think our priorities are in the bill that we already passed.
He says that the teams will work together to actually come to an agreement as soon as possible.
I would like to get something done by the end of June.
We're not going to give up House priorities to do that.
Do you believe that the Senate will be going against the will of the voters with all of their requests?
Yes.
Because of the dug-in positions among chamber leaders, House members now speculate that likely nothing will be passed regarding cannabis before the summer recess. At the Ohio State House, I'm Morgan Trout reporting.
So you guys can see how it can be so complex and complicated when it comes to a simple issue such as legalization. There are different people who have differing ideas on what regulation should look like. Some people have really strict views while other people may not be as strict. Now that being said, there is one big factor that these lawmakers are taking into account, and that's Delta 8, and that's the synthetic stuff. So we're going to break that down for you guys in a bit, but like I promised, let's show you guys how much money Ohio's actually raked in from legal sales since they legalized. Check it out.
Let's start with the new numbers from the Division of Cannabis Control because they really are jaw-dropping, especially since the legalization of recreational marijuana sales began just less than a year ago. Between August 2024 and June 2025, recreational marijuana sales have topped $619 million. When you combine those sales with medical marijuana, we're talking more than $2.8 billion. But as these sales skyrocket, we continue to see a Republican push to change Ohio's law legalizing recreational marijuana that voters passed nearly 2 years ago. Before lawmakers could come up with a compromise, though, they left the State House for their summer break, meaning nothing changes, at least for right now. There are two proposed separate bills the House and Senate chambers have been trying to compromise on and pass. The Senate's decreases THC content, reduces home grow from 12 to 6 plants, and takes tax money away from local municipalities that have dispensaries. The House's latest version has none of those components. Right now, there are two Republican lawmakers taking on their own party trying to protect your access to recreational marijuana. State Rep Jamie Callender is one of them.
So it's pretty clear that there are a couple of big proposals up for debate down in Ohio, especially when it comes to regulation. So let's have a look at those and break those down in a little bit more detail. The controversial Senate Bill 56 is the big one, and this one will essentially overhaul the entire recreational market. This is the one that cuts home grows, lowers the THC limits, has that public consumption ban, also restricts transport of the product. It has to be transported in your trunk. It also reallocates taxes and restricts sharing. So it makes it basically a felony to share any homegrown with another adult. And that's absolutely crazy. Sharing is caring. But on the other hand, we have House Bill 160, and the House introduced its own version of the bill, and that's a little bit more of a limited version of those restrictions in the previous Senate bill. Now, just to show how the House bill proposal HB 160 will actually differ from the current laws, you guys can see up on screen, it'll still reduce the THC cap for extracts, but it does not cut the home grows. But here's the kicker, it actually recriminalizes certain activities such as sharing good old homegrown with another adult, even without payment. So that's definitely a cause for concern. Now, what lawmakers have been suggesting is that the reason for them trying to pass some of these laws regulating the recreational market is Delta 8. Delta 8 is a big excuse and a big reason why a lot of these lawmakers are trying to ban the good herb. Also, synthetic derivatives derived from hemp.
Ohio lawmakers officially on summer break now, and a key piece of legislation failed to pass before they left Capitol Square for the summer. NBC4 State House reporter Natalie Fahmy joins us now live to tell us what that is. Natalie?
Jared, you may have heard lawmakers talk about changing the state's recreational marijuana laws or regulating intoxicating hemp several times over the past year and a half or so. Well, again, that effort has stalled and is now on hold for several more months at least.
I am hopeful that the legislature will wrap this up and give us a bill, and we can go on to other discussions.
That's Governor Mike DeWine early last week, holding out hope that lawmakers would put a bow on the discussion. DeWine has been urging the legislature to pass a bill that regulates so-called intoxicating hemp products for a year and a half now, and the idea is bipartisan.
Of course we should regulate intoxicating hemp.
Intoxicating hemp products like Delta 8 are low-level THC products. It can give you a similar high to marijuana, but those products are not regulated, can be sold to anyone at any age, and are often found places like convenience stores. Some refer to it as diet weed.
You can go, unfortunately, walk into too many stores and they don't ID you. You don't know what's in it. There's advertising to children. There are so many common sense things that we agree on.
So what's the holdup in getting something done? Some Republicans want to ban the product completely. Others want to put it in dispensaries for ages 21 and older only. And there are several ideas in between.
We've got a group that would like to see Delta 8 a lot more places than I think the Speaker, the Governor, and the President would like to see it, so that's another issue.
Ohio House Finance Chair Brian Stewart says too many Republican members are just at odds about the details right now.
We're going to take the summer and come back in the fall, potentially take another crack at it.
But Ohio House Minority Leader Donnie Isaacson says the problem is Republicans are trying to regulate Delta 8 and intoxicating hemp products in the same legislation that they want to change the state's recreational marijuana law, which voters overwhelmingly approved in November 2023.
If we had a clean bill to fairly regulate intoxicating hemp, we could have voted on it months ago. Years ago.
Now this is a big issue and something that I mentioned on the channel previous times in the past. Lawmakers, we love to see them lump tons of issues into one bill and try to get those bills passed. And obviously if there are tons of controversial and competing issues, those bills are a lot harder to get passed. But on the flip side, if there was a simple bill regulating Delta 8, then it's very likely that a lot of people will be in agreement and that bill will get passed. Now, it's not all about regulations and getting stuff banned and pulled off the shelves, because over in Ohio recently, pre-rolls have only just hit shelves. It's crazy, but check it out.
Around this time last year, legal recreational marijuana became legal in Ohio.
So in that time, some companies have recorded almost double in their profits.
Brady Williams joins us with a look at the state of the cannabis.
Getting a cannabis plant to flower like this and getting it to full maturity takes time. It takes constant pruning, constant gardening like any plant. Getting all of this here takes just as much work. That's the way these businesses work. They're constantly gardening them, getting the industry itself to grow, and they're still looking at expansion.
A group of 5 of us, all local Cincinnati business owners, decided to join and build something that we think can really serve not just Cincinnati, but the entire state of Ohio.
Cannabis products here at King City Gardens begin with these mother trees in the mom room, from which all their plants, each different strain, and all the weed they produce originate. Co-founder Kaveh Azadeh says the company itself started with him and several other business owners who brought in cannabis experts.
So I think if you bring that cannabis experience with the business side of things, I think that's when you take the next step.
The trimmings from a mother tree are propagated, and the plants branch out into fully formed plants of their own. Azadeh says these techniques are how they started their business on the medical side, but a year ago, the state of Ohio opened up recreational sales, which he says really helped the company branch out.
Not only did it go 2 times sales, but it also attracted a lot of people from other states. A lot of these dispensaries, especially in Cincinnati, we're getting a lot of foot traffic from Indiana, Kentucky, which has helped that growth. But I think for the state of Ohio, it's done a great job of being able to give the product to any consumer.
It takes constant pruning and precise conditions to keep their plants not only thriving, but compliant with state regulations. It's meticulous work. So was the rollout of recreational marijuana. Azadeh says he and any other cannabis business owner has been monitored closely, and the rollout of allowable products has been slow.
And we feel very confident that not only is it going to get rolled out, but it's going to get rolled out the right way.
Some of the finished, dried, inspected product you see here is going to be part of the latest rollout, and that's quite literal. Pre-rolled joints were just approved by the state, and the first sales began last week.
It represents anywhere between 15 to 20% of the market, and it also gives the people easy use. You're going in there, you're buying a pre-made item, right? It's a joint that's already made for you. So I think how easy it is to walk into a dispensary and be able to buy something like that, it's going to make it much more attractive for people to go into the dispensaries.
Cannabis sales hit $2.5 billion in the state, with more than $700 million of that coming from recreational sales.
So massive profits are coming in, tax revenues coming in, and finally stuff like pre-rolls are hitting the shelves. So partner that with the fact that some of these regulations failed to pass, and that's good news for Ohio. Now, like I said, despite the fact that these regulations have stalled, it does not mean that it's dead in the water, and that's something that Senator Huffman spoke on recently, so let's have a listen.
I spoke with senators on both sides of the aisle about how this legislation would impact Ohio.
That's 10 joints a day. 10 joints a day seems to be a lot.
Ohio District 5 Senator Steve Huffman pushing for Senate Bill 56, the legislation putting tighter restrictions on recreational marijuana.
If people still want to grow it, they can grow it. It would be down to 6 plants in an entire household inside so that other people can't get to it, but to try to make things more reasonable and safer for people.
So there you have it, guys. It seems to me that those lawmakers are definitely going to come back with further regulations down in Ohio, so you guys need to look out for that. And what do you guys think about him saying the 10 J's is too much? Why is he babysitting? I mean, anyway, it's not about what I think, it's about what you guys think. So drop it in the comments down below and let me know what you guys think about everything that we discussed in today's video, from lawmakers cutting home grows, increasing taxes, and just being downright babysitters. Drop it in the comments and let me know what you guys think about all that. Now, I'm pretty sure that you guys may have missed this, but there is a state where growers are tracked, and I'm talking all of their personal information is on a registry. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's absolutely crazy and it's coming up right now.